Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we are kicking off a three-part series, which I'm really excited about. I think it's going to be super insightful for you listening. And also, we are going to help out Shane Pope, who has an amazing new app idea. I love it. I downloaded it. He is a fellow Gaucho alumni, UCSB. We both went there. He's worked at a few different companies in his career. Never really found his footing like he thought he would be able to, had an idea for a product and wanted to build it. So he started Reflect Technology 6 months ago, launching his app called Remy. And he is on the fence right now about what to do. He's raised some friends and family money. He's put his own money into it. And he is trying to figure out, do I go to angels? Do I go to VCs? Do I go to an accelerator? Like, what is the best next path to go down for him personally and for his company? This is like his deep mission. And I love that because I think it is so needed in the world. So we're going to talk about that stuff today. And then we are going to do the second part is going to be a pitch deck teardown with a VC that I have found who I think is perfectly aligned to do this with us. And we're going to hear their take on his deck and his business and his product idea and all that stuff. And then we're going to do the same thing with an individual angel investor. So just a high net worth individual who does angel investing in the tech space. So Shane, welcome. Thanks for doing this. I love your just whole vibe. And I love that you're just willing to have this conversation because I think it's going to be so helpful. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Yeah, I'm excited to be here. I think it's just fun. It's fun to learn. It's fun to get feedback and see where people can poke holes. And I think that as we'll talk about, like I think vulnerability is one of the most important parts of being an entrepreneur and building something. So yeah, excited to be here. Really excited about this.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, when we connected a couple of weeks ago, I think you reached out to me on LinkedIn. Is that right?
I did. Yeah.
And we connected and I was like, "Oh, you just have like such a great attitude about how you're going into this." So I think that is half the battle right there.
Thank
If
you.
not like 90% of it. So anyway, okay, so let's start off. Give us your quick pitch. Doesn't have to, and this isn't like it has to be perfected. So everyone listening, have some compassion for where Shane's at. He is not perfect. Nobody's perfect. And the fact that he's willing to put it out there is amazing. So we are here to support him. And, so go for it, Shane. Tell us what your product is.
Cool. Yeah. So Remy is a mental wellness tool. Subclinical mental wellness is the specific phrasing. And the idea is that it's for everyone. And not like in a, oh my gosh, the target market's everyone. And I know that you got to have a specific target market. So that's a whole other conversation. But anyone who just struggles with life because life is hard and life throws stuff at us. And so the idea behind the app is it's an AI powered model where you give it a topic and it asks you questions. So I think so much of AI today is about delivering information, answers. Mine is about questions. I want my model, my app, Remy, to be asking you the best question to get you thinking. Because my theory is that I think people today just have too much on their minds. Our society, the amount of information that we're expected to process on a daily basis has just exploded in the last 50, 100 years. Like unbelievably more information in a day that people 100 years ago would process in a year. And so I think people just have too much in their heads. And so that's where the idea for Remy came from was, what if we had an app where it's about asking you questions so you get to get everything out, not another tool that's trying to give you all the answers.
You know what I love about that? First of all, I totally agree with you. I think it's so needed. Entrepreneurs in general, we are all juggling a million things. Read an article on kids. They literally cannot hold all the information coming at them. It is gnarly. So I think this type of thing is only going to be needed more and more. Your app is beautiful. It's
Thank you.
super clean looking. That to me is super important. It's user friendly. It's just easy to use. Asked some questions and jumped in there. And I love the way it was, just it's almost like just talking to a close friend, getting their advice, but it's really, it feels organic. So anyway, great job.
Thank you.
As for, your quote unquote pitch, you've got passion, but not over the top. You can hear the conviction in your voice. I love that you gave a personal story. That was such a great example of an intro right there that wasn't this like hard pitch, but you conveyed what you're doing and you didn't go into everything. More importantly, you stopped, you didn't keep going. So honestly, props to you for that because what that does is it piqued my interest and I want to ask questions, right? And that's the whole goal of what we're doing. So, anytime anybody gets an opportunity to talk to an investor or anybody that you're looking to have help you, give the quick overview and then stop. So, you're on the fence right now. You've raised some friends and family money. What are you wondering? Where are you like, what is keeping you up at night right now from a funding investor? What the heck do I do?
Yeah. So I think the analogy that I've really been thinking about a lot is like, from what I've heard is, think about capital, VC money, especially as like pouring gasoline on a fire. And so another thing I've heard is like, do as much as you can without VC money, without that larger scale money, because that'll give you more leverage. You'll find out more about your company. And there's just so much that if you can do more without getting external investors involved who are going to have their incentives and have their goals and their mindset that they bring to the table, the more that you can keep it yourself, the more control you have. And that's very valuable in a lot of ways. But there's real friction that you run into when you're limited and when you're bootstrapping. And there are things that if someone, a genie showed up and gave me $5 million, I know exactly what I would do with it. Like I've got a clear idea, but there's so much more that I could do with 50,000 still. So it's like, I don't know do you try to raise as much as you possibly can with what you have, or do you try to raise as little as you need? Like, I just think there's so many competing theories, and you can go on YouTube and you can hear someone explain why bootstrapping is the best way and bootstrap as long as you can. And then you'll hear someone else be like, once I got a VC investment, it completely changed my business. So there's just so much content and all of it's valuable. But when you're looking at your own situation, your own one of one spot, it's difficult because you don't know what to do and where to be spending your time. And it takes a lot of time to put decks together and reach out to VCs and try to really fundraise when that time could be spent on your product. So there's just a lot of moving parts that are always going on.
So, here's what I say to this type of a question. It really goes back to what your end goal is because there are a million different ways to do this, right? And there's pros and cons. There's no perfect path. Yes, the genie in a bottle with 5 million would probably be like the sweetest, because it's just like, okay. But money doesn't solve everything either, right? Just money alone. So finding the right investors, like you said, can really open up a lot of other doors outside of funding. So on the human personal side, what's your end goal with the company? Here's the trap I fell into, what I should be doing when I was, in my late 20s, early 30s versus what I personally wanted my life to look like. So, and you don't have to have a perfect plan either. This can change every year, it can change every 5 years. We continually evolve and our lifestyle changes and our wants and needs and all that stuff. So, but right now, like, what's your vision, 5, 10 years from now for this company?
Yeah, I want to build the biggest AI company in the world. And I want to work at this company forever. Like I want to lead this company. It feels like my life's work. It feels like my life's mission. I feel like everything that I've been through, all the ups and downs of life have been preparing me for this. And so I'm really looking at this through the lens of a very, very long-term approach. And I think that's guided a lot of this of like, slowing down at the beginning, doing it the right way, doing it as safe as possible, building as much trust, credibility, leaning into working with therapists and clinicians to find out where there are flaws, where there are things I can do better. Because I have that long-term horizon, I'm looking at this as something that I see as something that I want to be building for as long as I possibly can.
Yeah, love that. And I think that's where a lot of entrepreneurs are at, right? To take this risk and to do what we all do, you have to have a vision and a mission that's kind of bigger than a paycheck, obviously. There are much easier ways to get a paycheck. If you want a paycheck, this is not the way to do it, right? So, I guess two thoughts there. On the one hand, if you want to lead the company and, do that forever, VC can be risky, right? Because if things don't turn the way you don't hit certain milestones, they can remove you, they can just cut you off, you can be in a really tough situation. It happens like 99.
Yeah, I mean, Steve Jobs got fired from Apple.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
people, yeah, it's crazy how that can all happen. But yeah, it's definitely a variable for sure.
But on the flip side, you said you wanna be the biggest AI company in the world, so that means you probably need quite a bit of funding at some point, right? So, I think that, 1, I think it's great that you're clear on that. I think the goal there then is how do you get money while also maintaining as much control as you can over time, right? Mm, and the other thing is that a lot of VCs, they are looking for the companies that wanna exit. So you might not be the best fit for a VC because if you go in there, now you could tell them that you want to exit, but if that really isn't deep down what you want to do, it's probably not the best way to go. It's not going to, because once you get that money, you work for those investors. It's a totally different dynamic, right?
And
So,
that's yeah, I was gonna say one thing that I've really committed to for myself on this journey is I'm never gonna say what I think people want to hear. I'm just always gonna say what I believe to be true in my soul, in my heart, because that's gonna attract the right people. I think that there's a lot of guidance and advice on like positioning yourself to know what to say. And I think that's a very dangerous game because then I think you're having to keep track of like, oh, well, what did I tell that group or what did I tell that group? And if instead I just always operate from what I think is best and what I truly feel, then I never have to worry about that. And if what I say turns someone off, then it's like, okay, that's good information to know that that's not the partner for me. And so that's definitely something that I've learned in these 6 months building this is you have to just be yourself unapologetically, and then the right people will show up and the wrong people won't, but that's better for everyone.
yeah. No, I totally agree. I think that's very forward thinking. Yeah. So for me, you could waste a lot of time pitching VCs right now. So let's say 2, 3 months from now, you're like, okay, I'm ready, you know, to go get some funding more than, and we'll talk about where you're at right now. But you're gonna waste a lot of time pitching VCs. Here's the reality, and the VCs won't want, me to say this, but the reality is they all are afraid of missing out on, like, the next big deal. So they will entertain conversations. Now, a lot of them you just get ghosted because 'cause you're not far long enough or whatever. But even still, they say they invest in pre-revenue, and on occasion they do, but you're looking at their website, you're trying to get connected with someone there, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, they invest pre-revenue," and you can waste all this time and the mental anxiety of like, "They never got back to me. They were perfect. They never got back to me." So, I don't know. Personally, I did that, and I can say, speaking from experience, that I did that. The more targeted you can be in the type of investment vehicle and person that's going to align with that your goal, you're not only, not wasting time pitching to them, but you're not, like, mentally going through as many,
Yeah.
just, like,
Because
circles.
that's real. Like, I've had a couple VC conversations and like your mind gets enticed by the possibility because that's what you see on TV. Like that's what you see the shows are about is like the VC world. And it's cool. Like it is cool. It's a cool world. There's cool stuff going on. And you can start thinking of like, what would I do if that happened? Like that's a lot of energy. It takes a lot of your bandwidth when a lot of that energy then gets taken away from like what product features do I want to build, what are my customers saying, like, and I think I had a conversation with the VC and he gave me really really great insight, which was there's building a company to like build your product and build the actual like company that you're building, and then there's building a business and like building a business to raise money, and those are different things, and they often the incentives don't always align. And so the advice he gave me was just build the absolute best company you can build. Like build the best product, build the best company, and then let the money stuff, that'll kind of figure itself out as you go. But if you always just stay focused on your product, doing the best you can do, that other stuff can be very distracting.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I would agree. I think, and sometimes, again, I think that's great advice. My only putting myself in the entrepreneur's shoes is that it can also be really distracting when you can't pay your bills and
Absolutely.
you are freaking out because you don't know how you're going to pay your contractors or make payroll or whatever it is. I think sometimes it's easy to say that when you're like,
Yes.
you forget how it is when you can't
Yeah.
pay your bills. So it's a fine line, I think, but I totally agree that focusing on the product and the customer versus wasting a ton of time pitching the wrong investors that aren't the right fit at the right stage for you totally makes sense. Um, Now, what I have also found to be true is that a lot of the angel groups are exactly the same way, unfortunately. And you can waste, I've done this. I've just met someone the other day for coffee who just went through the same thing. They will keep asking you questions for 3 months, dragging you on, and you think you're in, you think it's good. And then at the end, they say, come back to me when you're at 2 million in revenue. And it's just like, oh my God, I just wasted
You could have told
so
me that like 2
much
months ago, but they're
time.
doing their
Yeah. So again, there it's just this FOMO thing and they don't want to miss out. So they're kind of dragging you along. And again, they have their own, issues to deal with. They're also humans. And so I think, it's not that they're like bad. It's
yeah.
just that's the way their process works.
And what's an angel group? Can you double click on what you mean when you say an angel group? Are these like kind of aligned people? Are they typically diverse groups of angels? Like what do you kind of see when you talk about these angel groups that you're familiar
Yeah.
with?
So an angel group is really just more of an organized group of high net worth individuals that are contributing money and they're doing smaller investments typically. So, like Tech Coast Angels is one of the biggest groups in Southern California. They have different divisions and it's very similar, but they're not going to be like putting in as much money as a VC would. But yeah, so when you search angel groups, it's good to just know going into it. A lot of times that process is similar where they might say we invest pre revenue, early stage, but they're really kind of going through the same process and they fund, compared to the number of submissions they get, it's very few
Would
investments
you say
put in.
Would you say that most, because this is kind of a hunch of mine, I'm curious your thoughts, but would you say that most like pre-revenue investments happen for like previously exited founders, like people who have already proven that they've done it and that's why they kind of get a little more leeway? Because I think from my experience, it seems like any people posting on LinkedIn and different things, like a first-time founder raising a significant pre-revenue round feels very, very rare.
Yeah. For someone to be pre-revenue, they either have some kind of hard technology or a proven track record. It's just too risky, right? There's a lot of
Yeah,
risk and
a lot of
they're
risk.
responsible for other people's money. And the angel groups, it's their own money, but they only have so much liquid funds to put in. So they're also being careful with, their investments. They ultimately want to make a return. I think that's a great question to ask VCs. Like, how many companies have you funded in the last 2 years who were pre revenue first time entrepreneurs? That's a totally fair question to ask. And if they say none, but they're still asking you to go through like a process, then you might just go, okay, this is, I don't know if this is going to be worth my time and effort. So let's talk about individual angel investors, because this is where I got my funding as a pre revenue company. They have a certain portion of their, you know, um, cash that they are willing to put into a more high risk investment as a means to be a part of something fun and exciting or give back. Or they really just are passionate about the product and they want to be a part of it. So that's one, the type, I guess you could say. You have former entrepreneurs who the guy that I interviewed on Tuesday, he started a couple companies, he exited, and he was sitting there going, okay, should I start another company or should I help support other entrepreneurs, part of their companies, and
Interesting.
make more money that way? And he decided to go that route. And I think he said he's made like 17 investments in the last 2 years.
Oh, very cool.
And there's a lot of people like that out there, and then it's just networking. You never know where these connections are going to lead, and I would highly recommend if you do have a call with a VC or an angel group or whoever, that if you say, "Hey, I totally respect we're not the right fit. Do you know any high net worth angel investor individuals who might be interested in
Yeah.
what you're doing?" Like, at least leverage them to see if they're willing to make an intro for that. Now, granted, they're, most likely trying to get that person to invest in their fund, so they might not be willing to share, but you never know. They might be like, "Oh yeah, this person is doing that type of thing." So you just never know. Does that help clear those things up?
Definitely. Yeah. I think what's coming to mind for me is, and this I think is especially true in my space, but I think it's probably true in everyone's space. But I think you need to, when I'm talking to these potential people, something that I'm really going to be looking for is, do they care about what I care about? Like, do they care about the mission that I'm looking to work towards big picture? Do they share my concerns about the mental wellness and mental health of people? Do they understand that this might be a slower burn in the earlier stages? And I think that's one thing that I'm really looking for is that advisor, not just the money, but also like you're saying, like someone who's done it before, someone who's seen that looks like it's a shortcut, but it actually takes, takes you down this path. Or, wow, you have a real strength here. Like, let's double down here. And I think that's where when you're doing it, and you're never doing anything on your own. Like, I've got people in my life and advisors and people to talk through things with, but it is different when someone has built this type of business or a similar type of business or can put you in contact with people who have like there's just that tribal knowledge. And that's one thing that I have been really looking to do on this journey, to your point, is just like talk to as many people as I can, reach out, set meetings, set one-on-ones, learn from people, ask them if they know anyone that I should meet. Because like you're saying, like if you know 20 people and each of those 20 people know 100 people, you've now exponentially increased your reach. If you asked each of those 20, do you know anyone that you think I should talk to? And I think then if you just keep following that out, the math gets crazy and you can cover the whole country pretty quickly in a lot of ways of how degrees of separation you can get. But back to your point, like it's making the ask. It's getting comfortable asking for help, getting comfortable asking for someone's time. And I think for me, I was a BDR. That was my first job out of college, was just setting meetings, sending emails, sending cold emails, making cold calls. And like you just learn that muscle of like putting yourself out there. And it's definitely served me, I think, really well on this journey so far.
Yeah, that's amazing. I was not like that. I was very much a behind the desk, like introverted. Well, extroverted in certain ways, but introverted mostly, which I still am to some extent. But when I started the wine company, I made a decision. I was just like, I am going to go to every networking event, like entrepreneur startup event type thing. Even when I don't wanna go, I'm going to go, and there were so many times I did not wanna go. Like, the last thing I wanna do on a Friday, this is just my personality, is go, like, and network, right? But I would force myself to go, and then, 9 times out of 10, I would be driving home and be like, "I cannot imagine if I didn't go to that. I just
Yeah.
would miss."
The one person I met that's going to, connect me with that person or the insight and it's uncomfortable. Like these environments are uncomfortable when I went to, a couple tech week events in San Francisco and there's loud music and you're yelling, you're trying to explain what your whole life's mission in 20 seconds to someone who's got a drink in their hand at a bar. Like
Yeah,
it's not comfortable, but if you get the one person who's like, oh, you need to talk to that person, or, oh, this is actually, oh, I would love to follow up. It's worth it. Like the value of a good connection cannot be overstated. And even if you have to go to 3 events to get one, it is uncomfortable. Like it's not fun. And some people love it. And if you love it, like great, that it's going to be a real skill for you. But it can be very challenging to insert yourself into a conversation with 2 people who are like, but you gotta get comfortable with that if you want to really, really make those connections, because people respect that. They respect the people that ask for the request and people want to help. That's one thing I've definitely learned is that people want to help. If you ask for help, people are usually very open to helping any way they can.
totally, and going back to your, like, being your authentic self, I think when you do that and people see that, it goes a long way. It's funny because I have heard some, people I've had on the podcast say, and again, I haven't seen people do this, so I don't know, but apparently they have, where they're like, "Oh, well, these entrepreneurs who just spend all their time networking and not focused on their product." But the reality is, like, when you're in that situation where you need funding, you need to do that. If you don't have
Yes.
wealthy friends and family just knocking on your door willing to drop you a check, you gotta go out and find people. So you have to do both. You have to focus on your product and go to the networking events. And it sucks sometimes because it is like a lot, but that is what it is, you know? It's like that's the so I think you it ebbs and flows, obviously. But yeah, you definitely, if you're in that position where you're looking for angel investors, I think that's what it takes. I will say though, I think LinkedIn is an incredible tool. And for
For
anybody
sure.
like documenting your progress on LinkedIn and just connecting with investors. And then when you are ready to raise money, you can build relationships and connections on LinkedIn. It's a really powerful tool. I know a lot of people hate it. They're just like, but it is powerful. So I think it's, you know, you got to
And
kind of
that's
try all the things.
And that's another thing that I'm not a big social media guy. Like if you found my Instagram, like I haven't posted, it's private and I haven't posted in like years. I'm not a big, I don't feel comfortable. Like I just don't really, I don't know. I have a weird like aversion to just like, why do I want to share these things? But with LinkedIn, like I've really leaned in on this journey to just like posting what I'm doing, posting my thoughts, posting things that come up. And at first it's really uncomfortable. Like there's like this wall that you have to get over. But then once you get over it, you kind of get into a flow. You're like, oh, I've got a post idea and you throw it out there. And then some things will catch on that like I didn't expect it to catch on. I had one post where I got like 50 connection requests from it. And those people have been so instrumental in these next chapters. And so like I just keep coming back to that idea of putting yourself out there and just like understanding that it's uncomfortable and that's part of the process is just like dealing with those uncomfortable feelings. And that ties all the way back to my app, which is that
Yeah.
I think at scale, like our society has kind of come up with this framework that like it's better to just like avoid hard things and hard feelings than just like actually sit with them. And that's where when you use my app, if you're dealing with a difficult work situation, it's going to ask you 7 questions specifically diving deeper into that situation so that you can actually find out what do I really feel about this? Not what do I think about this? Not what am I just like at the surface dealing with this? But like, let's actually navigate through this and find out what those feelings are underneath, because that's one of the consistent themes that I see from the top athletes in the world, monks. They all talk about this idea of like learning to embrace discomfort, learning to seek out your edges and grow through them, not see them as like an electric fence that you need to like avoid. Will Smith has a really interesting thing where he said he was talking about going skydiving and he said that the scariest part of skydiving is right before you jump. Like once you jump and you're falling, it's not that you're like, oh, like this is cool. It's so often the anticipation of the thing is actually the resistance. It's not the actual thing on the other side. And so I think once you can really power through that a couple times, and that's a muscle that you build, then you get this mindset of like, let's go. Like I can do whatever. I'm just going to keep powering through.
Yeah. And so many of the people I talk to have a mission driven business where it is like they're out to change some aspect of the world. And I love what you said. If you really believe in that mission, then it's worth just getting over that, whatever that uncomfortable factor is to be able to push through it. Okay, let's do this. Any other questions on that stuff, or do you want to dive into your pitch deck?
No, let's dive into the deck though. I'm
Okay.
excited.
Okay, so here is your deck. So, okay, from a design standpoint, it's beautiful, it's clean, it's clear. I guess I would have a question on, why the name is different than the app name here.
Yeah, I mean, do you want to dive in? I'm happy to talk through.
Yeah,
So I'm envisioning multiple apps as part of Reflect technology. I have a theory in my view is that AI models are, the big models are great, but I think the future is going to be specialized models. And so, like right now, Remy is a mental wellness tool for anyone. But I'm in conversations about building a first responder specific app that is designed specifically to help first responders unpack whatever it is that they're dealing with and what they're going through. So it would have a different color scheme, different outputs, different language style. And so I'm envisioning the future of this company to not just be this one tool, but it will be ideally a collection of different tools that are specialized for different groups.
got it. Okay. One thing here, this is bold, but it's a little bit vague, new category. I like the ones that, are who you can help right out of the gate. We help people self, I don't know how you would say that, work through. We help whoever.
Yeah.
Anyway, so team, we remove their names. The only thing that I would comment on here is, an investor is going to go, well, who's managing your money? So even if you don't have anyone, upon taking a bigger round of funding, you could put a empty box here and it just says like contract CFO upon funding, something like that. So they know you're thinking about like, okay, yeah, we need to, we want to see that somebody around here is keeping an eye on the books because this is all basically product. So you had a question previously about these guys all being contractors and how to explain that. Was that correct?
Yeah, because I think that's one thing. I don't want it to seem misleading that, I've got this team of 8 full or 7 full-time people, 8 full however many full-time people. These are people that are working with me on a contract basis. Some are working for free just as collaborators at this point. And so I think like how do I like bring that up without sounding like it's like a defensive thing? Like just like making sure that it's understood that they know what this is presenting without it seeming like he's misrepresenting what his company really looks like at this stage.
I would just put contractor next to their names. I think it's very normal for people to think that. If you're full time doing this right now, you put dash FT. You can put these guys dash PT part time or dash contractor. And I think that helps show that, yeah, you're not at the point because you haven't gotten into where you're at. This is the second slide. They might go, oh, wow, they're paying this whole team. But then they get down to, "Oh, no, wait. No, they're not because 'cause he's really, really early stage." I don't usually put the team slide up front like this. I don't think it matters. People have different opinions. It's not gonna make or break whether you get funding or not. But, that is one thing. So I agree with you there. I would put contractor, and then you don't even have to talk about it. And that's really normal. Everyone's gonna know that in the early stage. So the problem, I think that's great. We've never been more advanced or more broken. True that. Our ratio of inputs to outputs has skyrocketed exponentially in the modern world. Um, true. The problem. I guess I think it's fine. Again, people are going to understand this, but, just even something like people need help or something like that. What that's the other part of the problem. The opportunities, you've got 2. I'm gonna kinda describe this a little bit for anyone listening, not watching. If you wanna watch it, you can go to YouTube and we're sharing our screen and you can watch it. I should have said that. The opportunity. So make mental wellness accessible and provide real relief. And then 2, build an ethical company that leads by example. So the only thing I would do, up here, I feel like this is a little bit more of the mission versus the opportunity. Opportunity typically would describe more of a financial, aspect to it.
Yeah,
And then I think, when you look at you want someone to be able to scan this quickly. To me, like the visuals are cool, but put these up top so that someone doesn't go to the bottom. Just make it just super easy. Meet Remy. I love this slide. The only thing I would say here, so again, I scanned this quickly um, purposely because I just want and I got it, but meet Remy, so you go Reflect Technologies and then Remy. So you might wanna say our first product or something like that.
got it.
I don't
One
know.
thing that I'm curious your thoughts about is like there's building a deck to be like viewed with you not in the room, and then there's building a deck to like accompany a pitch. Do you
Mhm.
see those as like two separate decks, or is the goal that it's the same deck? Because a lot of what I've built this deck for was like for like a live pitch. And so I'm kind of adding that color in over the top. But then to your point, if I'm not getting that opportunity and it is just like something that's sent to someone and passed along, you can't rely too much on what you're going to say over the top because like I'm a believer when it comes to decks and slides. Like I want my slides to say as little as possible so that when I'm talking over it, can add the color. But that becomes a real negative when you're then just sharing a deck.
Yeah. So I can tell you what people do all kinds of things. I always had a 5-slide intro deck that basically just said, what the story was, what the product was, who I think the team was, traction, and then the ask, where we're at. So I do think if you're doing this live, I think this is great. This is perfect because you don't want someone spending a bunch of time reading the slides. So I think what you have here is perfect for that. I would, if you're just sending it out, again, I think the whole goal is just to get a meeting. If someone understands this space enough or they're passionate about it, I think what you have here, we'll get to the last slide. I think that's where we need to refine it a little bit. But what you have here is at least getting the point across of what you're doing enough to see if someone's interested in this space. So, I wouldn't necessarily say redo it all, but you might just want to say meet Remy because there is a disconnect in the name and then this, and just make a slight connection there for people.
Yeah, I think what would come into my mind is like building just like a second version that's just like designed to be sent, and then just looking at it through the lens of like, okay, if someone is seeing this and not hearing me, what do I need to add? Like, what are the key things that aren't in this slide that I am leaning on being able to talk over? And like, I think to this point, to your point, saying meet Remy, our first product, like that makes perfect sense. I think that's like a great add on that like adds a lot of value to someone who's reading it just kind of cold from the first perspective, from their first perspective.
Yeah. And you might want to put like, this is not just a concept. So right here, I might think that you haven't even developed it yet. Right. So let's see. Okay. Yeah. Live on the App Store, growing downloads, or something like that. Live, live users or whatever you want to say there. Something that this is your first product. And I would definitely get that point across here that it is live and you've put a lot into it. So, but yeah, love the look of it. Okay. So the gap we fill mental health, mental wellness.
And this is another one, curious your thoughts on this, where like when I'm presenting this live, this like moves and has like builds and is more like it has much more to it when I walk through it live. And so I think this is another one where like I need to have the lens of like, okay, is this the one I'm walking through live or is this the one that I'm sharing? Because there might be things that you want to change about the sharing one if it's not. And this one I think does get it across still, but I think it's a lot more powerful when I build it in sequence.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't, this still causes me to try to figure it out. Like when I'm looking at this, I have to really look at it and try to figure it out. Like mental health. Okay. Who are all those clinical care, private practice? Like I actually, even those little logos in the middle kind of lumped clinical care and private practices. So all I saw were a group of logos, which I didn't even realize until we started talking about it. Reflective AI, and then yours is there, and then mindfulness. So I would almost just put clinical care and private practices, maybe at the top in bold, and then put the logos below. I think it's just the layout is a little bit confusing,
Yeah.
to be able to scan it quickly.
And
And
is that would that be what you think like the mindset for someone building a deck to share is like go with the mindset that someone is going to scan through this really quickly.
yeah, like super quick. I mean, I get people send me a lot of decks, and I am here to like help people. And I scan them. I'm busy, and I scan them to see if it's like, "Send me your deck," and then I'll see if we'll have a call. And I scan them, and if it is full of information, I'll either if it's just like paragraphs and paragraphs, I'll just give them feedback over an email, but I don't go through the deck. I literally like
Interesting.
it's like way too much. I mean, I think you're lucky to get a minute of someone's time.
And I think that's
So
a good exercise for someone to work through is like look through your own deck. Give yourself a minute to look through it and see like where do you get stuck? Where do you spend time? Where does someone like just skip it? Because I think that's a good exercise to think about is like how quickly could someone get through this and understand everything that I want them to understand?
yeah, a great way to do that is to put your deck up on your computer, stand back 6 to 8 feet, and look at your deck and go, "What's the one takeaway I want someone to get, and is that obvious from this slide?" Because if from 6 to 8 feet back, your eyes are having to go in circles or, like, follow a trail on the slide, then people probably aren't taking away the point you want them to. So it really yeah, and yours is, like, beautifully clean and simple, so it just goes to show that, yeah, when someone's scanning it, it just needs to be, very obvious at the top, clearly the point, and then you could have some stuff below, but very minimal.
Yeah, I think that reminds me of something that I think about when it comes to products. I mean, that Steve Jobs talked about. I think Steve Jobs got it from Leonardo da Vinci, but like, I think it's simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Like, you want your product, you want your deck, you want everything to be as clean and simple as possible. The more that you have to put to explain what you're doing, the further from like people just seeing it and getting it you are. If someone needs to read a paragraph to understand what the slide is saying, they're probably never even going to read the paragraph.
Yeah, totally. Exactly. So yeah, I think you could, yeah, some tweaks here. I think this one is really great. Like this actually stands out. The solution.
And I think this one, like, I could even just have this one and not the one before. I think, like,
I
in a way, I
totally
think
agree.
this one accomplishes the other one I like because it, like I said, when I'm live doing it, it has a cool build element. And so I can really articulate. And that's why I'm a big fan of builds because you kind of force the eye when you're in the room. Like, if you only have one box on the screen and then you click a button and then another one shows up, like, you can control where the eye goes. But I think just real time talking through this, like for my deck that I'm sharing, I think I would just leave the first slide that we just talked through out and just leave this one in.
Um, okay, the new front door. So this looks like this is explaining your product. So users are inputting information into your app, right?
Yeah. Well, so I think, and that's again where I think talking through it, it's hard to articulate as well visually. But the idea here is that I think that reflective AI can be the most accessible first tool that people go to if they're struggling. And then from there, they might use my tool and, oh, I could benefit from meditating. I'm going to start meditating. Or, oh,
See.
I might, the app might give them a journal prompt that they can then take to a journal. Or I've done examples with Remy where it says, like, hey, you might want to go talk to a counselor about this. Like, this seems like something really heavy and severe. And so my hunch and my theory is that those other things are just like one layer like less accessible. And so Remy can be and reflective AI can be the first place people go. But I think to your point, that doesn't come clear super that doesn't come across super clear in just the slide visual itself.
Yep, yep. So yeah, one sentence kind of summing that up right there would be perfect. Yep. But it's a beautiful slide. Okay, the plan, freemium model with premium saved threads and enterprise licensing. I think this is all very, this is fine, obvious. Nothing crazy there. I'm not a tech person though, so I'm sure it'll be interesting to see what our, with our VC Deck Teardown, what he says. But I think obviously from my perspective, this is all standard stuff. The moment I don't know if you need this one or put it at the end or something because I like the slide, but it's kind of you're waiting to get to the nuts and bolts and then you kind of go back to the mission. Um, okay, the raise. So this is the one. So let's go into this real quick. So you have currently raised, you said 40,000 from friends and
Yeah.
family.
Yeah.
Okay. And so on this slide, it says the raise 30,000 from select friends and family, safe agreement, 50% discount, phase goal, build a VC ready company by building a safe and credible product that's ready to scale. Use of funds, build out the Remy premium to begin monetization, fund studies to make Remy safer and build credibility, build out in-app metric tracking to measure engagement, create B2B deck materials to begin pitching employer partnerships. Okay, so let's go back to, so you have currently raised a round on a safe at a 50% discount. And right now you're looking basically just some more funds to get you
Yeah.
to
Kind
the
of
next.
continuing that round. I would say this would be like just a continuation of that round.
Okay. So nothing wrong with that. Totally fine. I think if you have friends and family and you're really looking at friends and family, basically.
Yeah. Truly friends and family. And I think that's where I have kind of a little aside on like just the friends and family thing if we want to dive in
Yeah,
there
go
real
for it.
quick. But I think one really, really big reframe for me around this is one, you have to be in a fortunate position to have friends and family who would be in a position to do this. And I think that I know that not everyone has that. So I think that that's definitely one thing to call out. The other thing is that I think from my experience, my perspective, over communicate that this is a really big risk. Like over communicate that this is really someone investing in you, wanting to believe in you. Yes, if this goes as well as it could long term, there will be a significant financial advantage to being involved this early, but it is a big risk. I think that the more that you just will feel better internally the more that you, or at least for me, like if you're trying to say, "Oh, this is a no-brainer, I'm going to get rich," and like that I think is going to attract just a different conversation. And so my view has been over communicate the risk, but then also when you're thinking about it internally about like who do I want to ask, who do I want to go to, I've been thinking the other way, which is if this goes as I dream it and I build the biggest AI company in the world, who are the people that I want to be able to look back and be like, I'm glad I gave them a chance to be involved because
Mhm.
you are presenting an opportunity. You do need to believe in it with your whole heart that it's going to be amazing. And what I don't want is I don't want this to be this amazing big thing. And then my closest people being like, dude, like I would have loved to be involved. So you kind of have this push and pull, I think. And so that's been for me the reframe is like, throw it out to people, tell them you're building something, tell them you're raising money from friends and family. Understand that there are people that you think that are going to invest that aren't. There are people that are going to surprise you and be interested that you didn't know. But the box that I'm looking at is like, is this someone that if this goes really well, I'm going to have wanted to offer them an opportunity to get involved? But then once you're in the room with them, communicate that this is a very big risk that they would be taking.
Yeah. No, I think that's smart. Yeah, I always say don't take money from anyone who can't afford to lose it.
Yes. And you could literally say that. Like I've said that to people, like, please don't invest more than what you could lose and not think about. Like that's really the frame that you need to have because that's and even because even if things go really, really well, it's gonna be a while.
Yeah.
It's not this is not a parlay where you make a bet and it like, all the games happen on Sunday and then all of a sudden you get a big check. Like this is a long, long-term thing.
Yeah. So I think great advice and glad you're doing that. I think not everybody does that. If you have a, you know, if you're in it for the right reasons and want to sleep at night, I agree with your approach. Okay, let's talk about safe 50% discount. So
Yes.
the main thing I want to talk about here is when you're doing the first round, or any round, it is so important to consider how it's going to be perceived to your next round of investors. So now this isn't, huge amounts of money that you're raising here. So I will be curious to see how much of a red flag that is at a 50% discount, if it is, to someone putting in the next round. And if it's friends and family, it might be like, oh, well, okay, they got a killer deal. But it doesn't really feel good to the next round of investor to know that these other people are getting that good of a deal. So, the 20% is typically 25 is typically the maximum discount people do. Um, I don't think you're, setting yourself up here for, like not able to go out and raise money, but there are situations where people do an initial deal and it prevents them from being able to raise more money down the road.
This was one of the examples of like I kind of I knew what I was doing when I did it. Like I wasn't naive about knowing that this is not in the norm. And I think for me, it was a part of that commitment of like, I'm going to do this my way and I'm going to attract the right people. And if it does raise red flags with certain people, the amount of money that I'm raising at this discount, I don't think I think could be very digestible in the big picture. And so I wanted to go above and beyond for these people in my life. And so that was a commitment that I was making, knowing full well that there might be people that say, like, hey, that's ridiculous. Like, that shows that you're immature as a founder, blah, 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 blah. Like, people can think and have their own feelings about it. But I know that, like, I feel comfortable sitting across from anyone and explaining why I did it, explaining how I was looking at the math of it and why I took that approach. And I think that's where so much of this comes down to like, can you confidently and stand behind your decisions as opposed to being like, oh, I don't know, I wanted to do it. And now maybe I'm like, I kind of think you kind of have to own your decisions and own why you did it and really stand behind it. That's kind of my view on it.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I just think that if somebody did wanna hand you 100 or 200,000 or 500,000 right now, and they say, "Well, I want the same 50% discount that I got," you're gonna have an issue if you do end up going to raise a bigger round, because then people.
Yeah, and I think my thought there would be, and I'm curious your thoughts on this, but like this 50% was specifically for friends and family at the earliest stage. If I'm now going to raise another round, then the terms are going to adjust. And obviously you're not going to come now at like 10%, but like, I don't know, like that would be my thought is like, it is a separate round. Once I'm bringing in an angel investor, once I'm raising more money, then that conversation I think becomes a different conversation. It's now a different round with different terms.
Yeah, it depends on how you're structuring it, and as long as, you don't have millions raised on this
Mhm.
structure,
Yeah.
again, it's a very small amount, so people probably won't care.
And I think that'd be definitely curious to talk to the VC and the angel about that because what my research was showing was like each safe kind of converts on its terms. So you could have one person with 50%, one person with 20%, and at that next funding round, those safes just convert in kind of like in a vacuum. Like they convert at their terms, so you
Mhm.
can have different terms. But I think that's definitely something that I opened myself up to by going this route.
Yeah, they might just go, well, if they're gonna see the terms of this safe, well, I want the same terms, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
anyway, I don't
Yep.
know for sure, it just in my eyes are like, "Oh, that's a steep discount, that could cause issues." But where there's a will, there's a way, you can get around it, but point overall is to be careful and to not only, because in order to have this be a great investment for your initial friends and family, yes, you wanna give them 50% discount, but in order for it to be a great investment, you also need to be positioned to be able to raise money down the road, right?
Yes, definitely.
So, going too steep of a discount, if it could deter future investors, some way, or even however you're raising it, if you're doing, an equity round, like, whatever the terms are, if are if they are built structured in a way where it could be a deterrent for a future round, you have to be really, really careful doing that because, to protect your current investors, you need to be able to be in a position to raise money down the road. So I think
Yeah,
it's
it's a great point.
a blanket, statement across just not only thinking about your current investors, but how is this going to affect future investors and make sure it's not a deterrent. And it's not just the discount. There's a lot of things
Yeah,
that play into that. So anyway, just
definitely.
really thinking through that.
Yeah, no, it's definitely it's great to talk about.
Yeah. So then the last thing on here, I would basically, use of funds, I think is good. People put that. But what milestones are you going to hit at the end? Because that's the thing that's going to make you more valuable to be able to go raise that next more formal, angel round. Um, and so again, if you really, if you're using this deck right now to just talk to friends and family and it's easy to get a meeting with them, I don't think you need to change anything on the deck, right? So, but if you are going out to angel investors, then obviously this ask slide would change, and stuff like that. But I think for a friends and family round, you still might want to put, if you have savvier friends and family who are, in the tech space and who are placing a bet on you doing this, you milestones will make them feel better that like, oh, okay, yeah, wow, if he hits that milestone, he'll be able to go get more funding. Uh,
Yeah, I think that's where like knowing your audience and like knowing how to calibrate what you talk about, what you share, how you speak, like that's a skill because if you have someone who's very technical and works in tech and business and knows this stuff in and out, that's a different preparation than if it's your aunt who is super sweet and loves you and wants to support you and see you have success. So like there have been meetings where I have my laptop and we end up just having a conversation and it ends in an investment. And there are times where I walk through the whole deck. And so I think that's a big component of the deck that you're building is who is this for? Who is the audience? Because that's really going to determine the language that you speak in that conversation and in the deck in the slides.
yeah. Well, love it. I think that you are off to a killer start. It's very exciting. When's your goal to raise that next 30,000?
See, that's where like I know the answer that you people want to hear is like by this date. I've been really like to your point earlier, I've been doing more of like a raise enough to give me, 6 weeks of runway and then analyze because things are changing so fast that like what I thought I needed money for, I ended up not like. So it's a very evolving process. I've raised half of it already. So I'm raised 15 of the 30. And so it's just about figuring out who I'm going to ask, who I want to continue with. But I've raised enough of the rounds so far to keep me going through that phase. And that's where like I've really just been starting to think about money as fuel. And it's like you're on a journey, you're driving your car, you need fuel to keep going and your fuel can get you to a certain point. You need to be budgeting and knowing how far your fuel can get you. But the key is like, do you have fuel to keep going? That's really what I'm focused on.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense for where you're at right now. I think it does. There are benefits to having a longer runway, putting a short focus on raising 100,000 so that you can focus for a year and really increase the valuation of your company. And then, because I can imagine, you want to start paying yourself and do things like that. Um,
Definitely.
what was I going to ask you? I had one other question around that. Oh, if somebody did offer you 250,000 right now, would you get? Like, would you be
Yeah,
like, yeah,
definitely.
okay.
Yeah. I have a clear, very clear line of what that.
So I think the only other thing I would add in here is, where you're, let's see, where you are at exactly from a user standpoint. Hold on.
Mhm.
Have that in here?
No,
Yeah. So have you do you have paid downloads or are they all?
no, not yet. I haven't created the premium version yet. That's like on the key roadmap.
Oh, got it. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. To begin monetization. So here's what's great about this. You're out talking to people, right? And you get this 30,000 and you launch Remy Premium. And now you're starting to monetize it. And you're sharing the story and you're doing a monthly update to all your connections that you're building. Hey, guess what? I got my friends and family. We're just kicking off this. 6 months from now, when they've watched you come from where you are today to 6 months from now, you're generating revenue. You've got some partnerships in place. You are going to be like really well positioned to go back to the people who met you 6 months before, who followed your progress and are ready to invest, so you're doing it the right way. So again, props to you for that. I think you're building these relationships. Yes, if someone gave you 250,000 right now, that would be sweet. But if you don't absolutely need it and you can get farther with the 30 and show you're putting in the work and you're making progress, you're going to be in a great spot to if you hit those milestones. So again, you might want to put those milestones in here also,
Yeah.
other people seeing it, because then they're going to go, yeah, when you hit that milestone, come back to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's one thing that I've in conversations like with the VCs I've had, they're not shy about being clear of like, oh, this is what we want to see. Like when you can show these things are doing this. And I think it's just that's when you have to decide as a company, like, am I ready to chase that yet? Am I ready to focus on that yet? If not, and there's other things I want to do, that's where I think at the end of the day, like as a founder, if you're listening to this, if you're thinking about it, like it's your business. Like other people are going to have thoughts, other people are going to have guidance and advice and you need money and there's all these different variables, but you got to do what you feel is best for your company and get advice and hear all these people. But like part of being the person that's doing it is like you make the final decision. And there's a weight that comes with that, but there's also a freedom that comes with that. And so I think just reminding yourself, like, I say like run your own race, like build your company and learn as much as you can, but then make sure you come back to like, am I doing what I really feel is best for my product, my users, my company? And that I think will lead me well. And it's led me well on this journey so far.
Yeah, I love it. Well, I am so excited for you. I think you will be wildly successful. And
Thank
I
you.
say that because I believe that success is not only financial success, but because you are so in tune with the mental wellness space and you have such a great attitude and you're doing this in a way that's authentic to you, that will lead you to a place to be successful, not only financially, but also happy, which is really should be the
Yes.
goal, right? So
Definitely.
you're a
Absolutely. And
win.
I can say like for all the for all the challenges and all the ups and downs, like I've never felt more fulfilled. I've never had more fun. I've never like it's cool. So if you're on the fence and you like it's hard, it's difficult. There's ups and downs. There's no doubt about it, but it feels something that you can't really get anywhere else. So it's a cool journey. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is. It's like we only live once. And I don't think, I mean, I know the things I've done. I will never regret having given those things a shot, but I would totally regret if I, like, the end of my life, whenever that is, always wanted to do the thing and never did it. So it's totally worth taking the leaps. Props to you
Absolutely.
for doing that. You're awesome. I can't wait for the next episode.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's gonna be fun.
Yep. So this was a long one, but I hope it was helpful for everybody. We will have the next episode is going to be a pitch deck teardown with a VC. So we'll see what they say. I will be curious. I think it'll be fun. And Shane, you are a good sport to put this out there. I love it. But I think it's
Yeah,
awesome.
I'm
I
excited.
would have done it too. So I think it's great.
Cool.
But okay, awesome. Stay tuned and we will put the link to your app. Can we put
Yeah.
that in the show
Yeah,
notes?
definitely.
So
Absolutely.
support Shane, go download his app. And I'm sure, how could people get in touch with you if they have questions or want to reach
Yeah,
out?
so in the app, there's a button that you can click. There's a little message icon. You can send feedback. You can ask a question. Please reach out. Any thoughts, feedback, positive, negative, things you think it can do better, ideas you have. I'm really looking to build this alongside the people that are using it, customers, users. You've got the best insights. And so, yeah, reach out anytime. Find me on LinkedIn. Yeah, always looking to connect with people that want to learn more. If you're just curious, I'm always looking to chat. So, yeah, feel free to reach out.
Awesome. Or if you want to invest.
Yeah, if you want to invest, definitely reach out.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much, Shane. We'll see you on
Yeah,
the
thank you.
next. Okay.
Yeah, have a great rest of your day.